unqualified opinion and unmodified opinion for the current year, and that's consistent with past years. We also reviewed the statements. More specifically, we reviewed the statements of net position, talked about the changes in the assets and liabilities and net position. We also discussed the statements of revenues and expenses and talked about the operating trends with revenues and expenses and certain other items. We talked about the various disclosures, including the new disclosure requirements for the retirement system. We also discussed some required communications and finally some discussion items relating to accounting issues and internal control issues, none of which were material, but nonetheless they were important that the commissioners understand. And that's an overview of our presentation.
Great, thank you so much. Okay, so I think that's it. If no one has any questions for the auditors, you are welcome to leave if you so choose, or you're welcome to also stay and enjoy the meeting.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you both.
Yeah, have a nice day.
So now back to the multi-year contract review. As you will remember, this is an item that we did discuss. Thank you both. So the multi-year contract review, this is an item that we looked at last month, and the commission members had some questions and requested some additional information be added to the annual service contract review statement. It is included in your packet. As you'll see, the renewal terms were added, and then staff confirmed the contract expiration dates and such. So, Eric, I don't know if you have any specific items you wanted to point out about the...
No, I would add, as you indicated after last month's meeting, both the resolution and the accompanying schedule were amended to consideration of commissioners' input. To clarify what the resolution calls for the commissioners to acknowledge is review of the contracts. The approval happened at the time the contract was originally approved, so the resolution wording has been adjusted to not convey that this is continual approval, because the approval is done already. This is just a review.
Okay, does anyone have any questions on the Schedule A? Okay, and as you'll note, this is Resolution 2 because it was introduced at the last meeting, so that's why there's a gap between this resolution and the one we'll do next. So I will take a motion to accept Resolution 2-2016, whereas the contracts require review are enumerated on Schedule A, which is attached to the resolution, and that the Albany Port District Commission has reviewed the contract in Schedule A.
So moved.
Second? All in favor?
Aye.
Great, thank you. So also annually, the Port District Commission does a policy review. This was gone over in the governance committee meeting last month. And so there are two resolutions for us to review. The first one being that the governance committee only is recommending changes to the personnel handbook, and so that is being referenced in resolution number 5. In number 4, it's saying that we've reviewed our policies. The ones that are listed here in Schedule A, we don't recommend any edits, any changes, and then the one change for the personnel handbook will be covered in the resolution number 5. So I'll give you an opportunity to go through, either you or Rich, to go through those recommended changes.
Sure.
So if there's no questions about the policies that we are not expecting or authorizing any changes, I would accept a motion for Resolution 4-2016, where the Albany Port District Commission Governance Committee has reviewed the APDC policies listed in Schedule A and recommends the continuation of approval for these policies.
So moved.
All in favor?
Aye.
Eric or Rich wants to go through the recommended changes.
The section 3.5 of the personnel manual, personal leave, employees were granted 5 days of personal leave in addition to the earned vacation and earned sickness. As I was doing an audit on the time use, I was finding that in my opinion, it was somewhat being abused as far as personal leave. It was supposed to be for personal matters outside of, they couldn't be handled outside of the working time. At the end of the day, employees had a lot of vacation time left and no personal leave, so it appeared it was just being used as additional vacation. So I'm recommending that the leave be changed from 5 days to 2 days for personal use. The manual also calls that I should be notified as soon as possible of the need for personal use, which we are going to adhere to. The other section on benefits, in accordance with New York State health insurance, an employee who does not desire to be covered by our insurance, currently family or single, could opt out for $1,000. The state plan, which we cannot participate under, but we can abridge, allows for $1,000 for single coverage, $3,000 for family coverage for an employee to opt out of the plan. Full coverage is needed by some other member of the family before we can allow anybody to opt out. We're recommending that the opt-out occur as early as possible in the year, and that until the end of the year, the employee would not receive the compensation agreed until, so that we don't have to chase anybody down. If for some reason they needed to opt back in, we would have to go back after them for the payment. So we'll make the payment at the end of the year, but the opt-out is as early in the year as possible, and that will be amortized over the period.
Anyone have any questions? Okay, so I will take a motion to accept Resolution 5-2016, that the Albany Port District Commission Governance Committee has reviewed and recommended the changes in the Personnel Policy Manual, and that the Albany Port District Commission approves the changes to the Personnel Manual and directs the General Manager to update the Personnel Manual as necessary to reflect the changes. Second? All in favor? Aye. Great, thank you. Okay, so at this point, we'll turn it over to Rich to give us a General Manager update.
The resolution, I believe, has been reached on the dredging at Rensselaer Wharf. We have met with Rensselaer Iron and Steel and have generated an invoice to them current to the MOU that they signed with the port. We sent an invoice, I believe it was 2 weeks ago, for the $700,000, which would have been their share in the total cost of that dredging project. Until such time as the invoice is paid, I have notified Rensselaer Iron and Steel that the terms of the MOU remain in effect. The 5-foot of draft under a ship as it's loading, because they have a ship arriving in about an hour. So they will not be able to load the ship to draft a 28-foot, or they have to, and Dave Williams and security have been monitoring the loading of the ship and the draft. So we have made them aware of the fact that they have 60 days to pay the invoice, but that the until such time as everything under that agreement is satisfied. The terms of the MOU will fully remain in effect. After the invoice is paid, there are still terms in that MOU that will remain in effect, where the dock has to be plated between the ship and the dock to prevent or limit the amount of steel to be dropped in the river. 700 Smith Boulevard, as of as late as an hour ago, we still have had no further resolution from Sims. We're getting to a point where I'll discuss in executive session what steps we have available to us. Cargill, we're still working with them to come to terms of a lease extension. We have received a request from the local manager of Cargill that they needed, for safety reasons, the little lot that is opposite Greco Construction for staging of the trucks. Eric has looked at the most recent appraisals that we have. We've based it on those appraisals and the amount of land that's going to be used. We're sending that to Bob Rochik at Cargill for a license agreement until such time as we move into the lease negotiations, and we'll fold that parcel right into the master lease.
So it's a permanent lease they have?
Yes. Yeah, with the amount of trucks that they come in and they load on the west side of the facility, it's becoming a safety issue with passenger and pedestrian traffic trying to get around all the trucks at that corner. We had a meeting with General Electric 2 weeks ago. We had several of the principals here that deal with the heavy lift and project cargo. I think it was a very good meeting on the proposal for the storage building. I had hoped that we would have had some communication back by today. I didn't, but I'll reach out to Mike Gazepski and see where we stand with that. The engineering on the dock at the south end of Shed 5 is progressing well. John Cosa is working with the boring and testing company. All of the bores on the river side of the dock are completed. They're in the process right now of doing the last upland test bore. After that is completed, probably beginning tomorrow, we're going to have a few within the terminal that would be along the travel path of any machinery that's going to go along with that roll-on, roll-off barge slip that we're building into the dock. Once that's done, all that information will be turned over to Moffett Nickel, and hopefully in the next 3 to 4 months we'll have the plans complete for review and begin the RFP process for construction. I've met with our new council last week. Its projected start date is March 14th. It may occur the week prior, depending on him finishing his duties in his current position. He requested that he be able to attend the meeting on the 7th to assist his replacement, and that he would finish up during that week. We got a grain shipment that just arrived. It's going to take 25,000 tons of grain. It's the first one of the year, and first one under the New Year's lease at Cargill. Scrap ship coming in about an hour, and then later this week we have a fertilizer ship coming to Westway. So 3 of our tenants are getting a lot of maritime services this week. That's about it. I'll keep you informed on both PE and Sims.
Thank you.
Rich, any debrief on the gas spill and Rensselaer, any lessons learned?
It was a truck loading at the rack I'm not sure if the guy just punched in the wrong numbers for the compartment that he had, but, the trailers have different size compartments from 1,000 to 3,500. The automatic filling system put between 2 and 800 gallons more into the tank than it would fit. It came out the top. The good thing was that each one of these terminals have a containment system around the loading racks that was able to fully encapsulate that spill. The fire departments, state fire and DEC responded, and the terminal was back up in operation within 2 hours. Yeah, the lesson learned though is to make sure that the driver punches in the right capacity for each compartment.
Is there, when something like that happens, is there a fine or, you know, what is the follow-up to ensure it doesn't happen again? Or does DEC do anything, or?
I don't know if DEC would follow up with the company that was involved, and I'm sure they'll have follow-up with the terminal. But everything in place worked exactly the way it was supposed to.
Right.
The grounding and monitoring system for the truck shut down, but it's loading at anywhere from 300 to 500 gallons a minute. So even in
Once
shutting
you
it
load
down,
yeah.
you get that overflow through the dome cover. But the terminal manager there made one call. The East Greenbush and Troy fire departments were immediately dispatched. It worked nice and
They
smooth.
follow proper procedure.
Yeah.
Is there anything else for Rich? Okay, so I think we're gonna learn about our ships in January from Tony.
Thank you, Chairperson. Does everybody have a set of the ship's barges, tonnage, and longshore reports?
Yes, thank you.
All right. You'll notice the first page, January 2016, year-to-date, it's a change in the format. And what we've changed is we no longer will report or identify the 2009 through 2013 5-year average. What that did is gave us a picture of those 5 years, 2009 through 2013, because we averaged 51 vessels annually during that time. Now, how that reflects is 2014 was a banner year, and we handled 94 vessels versus the 51, almost double. Then in 2015, had an outstanding year with 69 vessels versus the 51, so up about 33%. So what we're going to do now is we're going to compare this year, 2016, versus 15, and make it the new standard of comparison. And if you would go down to the bottom chart, January 16 year-to-date, you'll see that last year, the grain sector, we handled 2 vessels in January and none this year. In the next 2 lines, heavy lift project vessels and barges, there were 6. This year, a total of 5. So we remained pretty close, down 1 vessel, and then 1 scrap iron vessel last year and none this year. Well, we're down about 4, but what do those 2 grain vessels and the 1 actually mean? So if you turn to the second page, tonnage report year-to-date, and look down towards the bottom, the totals column, you did 82,557 tons last year. This year, 6,179. So the big difference is in the 40,000 tons of grain last year, the 2 vessels, and the 30,306 tons for the scrap. So that's 70,000 out of the 76,000 shortfall. Now, the various commodity sectors such as the grain, scrap steel, fertilizer, and molasses, they fluctuate in time frame and volumes depending on market conditions. They're commodities. And as Rich indicated, we're getting a grain vessel, 25,000 tons, a scrap vessel, and a fertilizer vessel. So that's a reflection of how we have the peaks and valleys of the various commodities moving. Any questions up until then? Then to the Longshore Hours Report. If you look at the chart on the left-hand side, January 2015, 10,272 longshore hours. And that was what might be termed the tail end of the General Electric electrification project in Algeria. So that is a record, because the previous record was September 14, 10,157.5. So unless we start lighting up another country, it'll be a little while before we see 10,000 man-hours. Hopefully, we'll find that. On some other notes, April 21st, we have a tour where we're going to be conducting for the Council Supply Chain Management Professionals, and those are all the transportation and logistics professionals in the region. And then on May 12th, right on your calendars, our 3rd annual Port Industry Day. And last but not least, on April 1st, April Fool's Day, nothing wrong with that. The Albany Institute History and Art, we're going to be conducting a tour for them. They've had an exhibit at the facility beginning in September. It ends on April the 3rd, and it's called Capital Region in 50 Objects. And we have one of the objects, which is an anchor. So that's basically it, folks. Any questions?
I have a question, and I apologize if I should know this, but on an annual basis, how much, marine activity is generated by port tenants versus non-port tenants?
I put it into real estate and maritime. That varies. The real estate varies between 70–80%, and the maritime is 20–30%. That includes wharfage, dockage, crane hours.
I don't think it's
No, but I think she means the maritime activity.
like the number of ships. We say we have 60 ships that come in. How many of them are generated because of our port tenants?
Maybe
Right, versus-
15%.
Yeah,
About 15% would be tenants. Rental iron and steel will do about 7.
7 or 8.
Cargill on a given year would
5 to 7.
Yeah, 5 to 7 ships. So it could maybe even 20% would be based on tenant use, and then the heavy lifting project is outside.
Wood pulp.
GE, yeah, and our wood pulp is wood pulp. It again is not a tenant. The stevedore comes into, they handle it, but the users are mills from Ohio to sometimes as far south as Georgia. But then we're still hoping that we can get that other scrapyard to begin their shipping. We're working on how to put all the pieces together for that.
That's great, thank you. Is there any other questions for Tony? Okay, so I know at least one of the other business items we have discussed is the memo we received from Megan that is a proposed revised mission statement.
I mean, I think the only thing I would add to it is what I tried to do was take from the discussion that we had, some comments, which was directing us to the second bullet of the original mission, and try to expand it a little bit to include, all industry activities and make it more brief. It's not as brief as a tagline, when some people were talking about, some big operations, but we can... Something else. Well, and I think that's what you ended up saying, was this could then drive something like that. So it was, for the purpose of discussion. If you had edits or at this point we can even, go forward and take action at a next board meeting, but we did want to keep that conversation going.
Thank you for doing this.
I think I really like, taking the regional aspect, but then also the national and international aspect. I think the strive to add tremendous, to me, feels, almost passive versus we are currently doing that. And tremendous, I don't know if that's a strong enough word, but that would be the only piece that,
Can we noodle on it for
Yes,
a
sure.
couple weeks?
Sure.
That same sentence, I would take the and integrity, only because it doesn't, really add integrity, just,
Okay,
different words with it.
okay.
so I feel like you did an incredible job of
Yeah,
taking
thank
the,
you for
Yes.
the comments we made.
Distilling it down.
It's much easier than if we all sat here trying to come up with it.
Absolutely. And then,
So then maybe, do we want to ask folks, by the end of next week to get you feedback?
That would be great, sure, I can put it together and then send it back.
All right, and then we'll maybe adopt it at the next meeting?
That would be great.
Okay, great. Is there any other business?
Just one other note, I forgot that we filed our application to become members of the Environmental Sustainability Group, Green Marine, this week. We'll begin our audit process, and we'll get to the next level in the very near future. But that tag, and then the fact that it's supported by the World Wildlife Federation and everything else, it draws attention to what we're doing in the right way here.
really promote that.
Oh, yeah, once we get the approval, the Green Marine will be on it, all of our paperwork, all of our ads that we do in the,
So I wonder if that should be a component of the mission, like the sustainable, creating a sustainable environment or something, if we're saying that that's a priority.
More than just what
Yeah. So I think with that, we're going to go into executive session to talk about some contract negotiation and real estate negotiation.
yes.
So I would take a motion to enter into executive session.
So moved.
All in favor? Okay, so, no action was taken in executive session, but I did want to note that our, March meeting has been moved from the 23rd to the 30th, the last Wednesday in March at 12:30. And with that, I'll take a motion to adjourn.
So,
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
aye.
Thank you.
Yeah.